Calling them Juju, calling them Zulu, shouting Ashanti, calling what to see in South Africa and Rhodesia. Blood go run like water. Prepare my brother for the bloody revival. Just remember, brother, blood thicker than water. Stay up, Zimbabwe. 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 Stay up, Zimbabwe.
Well, it's really a pleasure to have you guys here. And I'm kind of overwhelmed, and I'm willing to respond to your questions and to anything you ask in the line of calypso, my career along the way.
Well,
I'm ready.
The idea of calling yourself the third world messenger in those days. When was that album recorded?
That album was recorded, let me see, boy. 76.
76.
At SEM Studio.
Sam Studio.
Stan Charman, and but Stan Charman was the mastermind behind the whole recording.
Right.
But he had a technician who used to work with him. I think it was David Beresford.
Right.
Imagine 1976, and you're hearing that sort of a music then, which was very unusual to the regular type of music you bring in at the time. But it had some foreign influence because, you know, Stan is a guy, he was on the international scene, he played with certain guys out there.
Jazz musician.
Yes, and then this,
That you can hear that.
yes, and then this white boy, Max Middleton, you know, he used to gig with Cat Stevens and these international guys. And would you believe, what's so amazing about that album is the first time that Max ever saw musical scores for Kaiso.
Really?
Yes. But you see, when your music is well drafted and is well constructed, it's an international language.
Yeah, of course.
It's just that the musician might play it, maybe, how he feels it. But nevertheless, he do not stray from the basic. And he really had a nice jazz version.
Was that a conscious experimentation on your part?
Well, these guys took me by surprise, you know. You know, Stan always tell me, Valley, you know, we have to do an album, and we have to do an album. And Max coming in, and when Max come, I'm going to get Max in the studio and whatnot, you know. And, well, Max really appeared on the scene, and we decided, well, look, we're going to put this album together.
I'm interested in your decision to go in that direction with the music in 1976. This is post-1970. You're iconic of the 70s.
But
A sound.
you see, maybe, well, I was always this sort of, how to put it, big barriers, you know, I mean, like, call me revolutionary, call me whatnot, because since in that time, they brand me, you understand? So I always had a mind on my own to do things the way I see to do it. And I tell myself, I'll take a chance. But you know, when that record was completed, someone told me, say, Valley, but that's not a Kaiso record.
Right. I was wondering about the reception. And
You know, and I felt very disappointed, you know. And I said, well, look, regardless of what, you see this record? This record is ahead of its time. You know. That's the only consolation I give myself.
So
Because-
I know we start with 76. Let's go back. Valley, you first came on the scene as a calypsonian when?
I first came on the scene as a calypsonian in 1961-62 under the name of the Mighty Robin. I was the original Robin, the first Robin.
Mighty Robin?
Yes.
Not to be confused with Count Robin.
No, or the Robin that people know, Owen Eckstein, this Robin. I was the original Robin. There was a tent by the name of the Big Bamboo on Park Street. Now, in those days, Park Street was the place, yeah? All the action happening.
Whereabouts on Park Street?
Well, from like Globe Theatre
Right, Green Corner side.
to, let me say, George Street. Sorry, that
whole stretch?
yeah, that stretch.
Action.
That was the street.
Okay.
Everything used to be happening there, you know what I mean? record shops, theater. When the foreign artists like Percy Sledge and Brooke Benton and them fellas come down to sing, is in Globe Theater, right on Park Street, where everything is happening, you know. And just a few houses or a few buildings from Globe Theater, there was a nightclub by the name of the Waldorf Astoria.
That's a big fancy name.
Yes.
From the American.
Here. And downstairs had a cafe, a guy named Pops used to run a nice cafe downstairs. But we're speaking about upstairs because that is where the calypso tent was being held. And that was where I make my debut as a calypso.
Was run by?
Was Skipper. The name of the tent was the Big Bamboo Tent.
Right. Skipper was a calypsonian, right?
Yes. I think he was, after all is said and done, you know, I don't think he was at Trinidad, you know, because he went away. Yeah, he died at the age of 94. Just the other day he died, you know. Yeah. And fellas like Creator, I don't know if you ever heard about Creator, Inventor, you know, even Prowler, that is where I met Prowler, and a fella named Chicky Chong, and Young Creole, you know, Conqueror.
What made you venture upstairs into that tent?
Well, because as a mediocre Kaiso in them time, you couldn't get into the big tents. So there was always this tent for, you know, the mediocres.
Like a stepping stone.
Yes, yes, you know. So that was my opportunity. And, my experience wasn't too, you know, how to put it? It wasn't encouraging.
How so?
Because at the end of this season, would you believe the song that I was singing, a calypsonian stole that song and recorded it. And to add insult to injury, the sobriquet that I was carrying, this guy by the name of Young Sparrow, he recorded the song he was singing in the tent at the time, after the season, under the sobriquet Mighty Robin.
So he was originally the Young Sparrow?
Yes.
Hear your song?
Yes.
In the same tent he was in?
Yes, all of us was in the same tent.
Decided he going to record the song?
Under my name, because he liked my name more than his name.
That's an identity theft.
You understand what I'm saying? And I mean, there's a lot of things. But you know, in these days, Kaiso, I mean, gets civilized now, you know, in the behavior, calypsonians and whatnot. You know what I mean? So
you're saying it was a pretty cutthroat environment?
Of course, I mean, a man take your Kaiso and record it. Creole.
Your name.
Creole take my Kaiso and record it under Young Creole. But Young Sparrow was recording who was dealing with his song under his sobriquet. When the time come for recording, he decided he going to record the song under Mighty Robin, under my name.
So what recourse it had in them days? Like what?
Well, I mean, you had to take what you get. You had to, I mean, it's a kind of free fall, something that you have no lawyer, nobody to represent you. You can take back what is done already damaged, you know, and you just have to move along. If you're strong enough, you know.
So having survived that?
Having survived that, you know, I decided, well, look, I won't get this thing a little year or two, you know, and try to, you know, get my mind together. But Kaiso was always in me because I love to write Kaiso.
From what age you?
From about 19 years, you know, I love to write calypso. So then, the Kaiso in me, I decided I'm going to write a Kaiso named Woman and Money. Money they love, money they crave, money will send them to the grave. So, I and this brother by the name of Conqueror, we grew up at a place named Bellevue, Dundonald Hill.
Yeah, no Bellevue. So that's where you're originally from?
Yes.
Right.
His old man had a gramophone. Right. And anytime I get a chance, I used to run away from home. I'd go down by Conky and listen to the gramophone, the records. Right. Kitchen and these and Biggin and these guys and them. The first time I heard the calypso name, Louise, I heard by Conqueror Father. Okay. And my mother's name was Louise. Okay. And on the contrary, we bought the record for her birthday too, you know. But getting back to the story. So I and Conqueror, we was well chums. So he decided, well, he coming in the game too. Right. You know, I write my song. You know, if you love something, you see for the love of something, if you love something, it will take care of you. But if you're going just something for what it could give you, forget it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I love Kaiso so much. That was one of my biggest heartbreak again in
Were you
Kaiso.
working at the time, or calypso was your full focus?
We used to work in a place named Butlers Limited.
Okay.
That is at the end. You come along Circular Road, right? We used to assort, but when the bottles come, if Juicy come in there and Pepsi come there, we assort the bottles in the right case. Pepsi for Pepsi case, Juicy for Juicy case, and that's the little hustle I used to be doing then. So Concord used to work there too, so we are real chum. So I decided, look, I'm going to write this song again. We had a couple friends, real good friends, was postmen. Them same postmen who make that strike and cause postmen in the place. That batch, because around at Christmas time, the postmen have strike, and that is how postwomen come on the scene.
Okay, so they never had postwomen.
Yes, yeah, that's a piece of history. But two postmen in particular, one was Michael Prince. I don't know if you heard the name Michael Prince. He was a dancer. He was way back, and this brother named Wickham used to play a guitar. And it was very cultural, and in these times, any little cultural activities, it just arouse people's interest.
Right.
So they decided, the postmen will put on a concert in Seaman and Waterfront Workers Union. The postman concert there. Oh, yeah. And I was invited to sing to the show. And I had already prepared Women and Money then.
Okay.
And Concord had prepared his song. But I really didn't expect the response to be that great, because it was my first time I felt that way.
Right.
Although I sang in the big bamboo tent.
Didn't feel that.
I didn't feel that sort of appreciation. But as you see, at the time you're growing, there's growth then.
Yeah.
So you're moving from the stages.
So that song, you were able to record that song?
No, let me tell you about the story about that song. So when I sang that song in the concert, it was so accepted, and Conqueror is the guy who had the opportunity first to sing with Sparrow, the big tent.
Right.
But you use partners, your partner know your song, you know your partner's song. Always chummy. The man went and auditioned my song by Sil Taylor, and instantly he got selected in Sparrow tent. Next thing you know, Conqueror rehearsing. The next thing I know, Conqueror recording up Telco, because Telco was the Kaiso recording band. Right. Telco up in Champlain up there, Frankie Francis and them fellows. Telco recording orchestra. That is the only record. Here by Telco. Next thing, Women and Money playing over the air.
Your partner.
Yeah. And what I'm telling you people is the gospel truth. Because, at the time I have to come and claim the song, so I have it registered in it because otherwise even have to get all
Recognized as yours.
Yeah.
How many years it took for that to happen?
It took a good bit of time, about 15 years or somewhere.
And what was the quality of the relationship between you and your
We still remain the same. Still, because they say your friend is waiting,
You are right with them, man. You are fucking So I thought that was a great breakout.
Because Concord played a very important role in my life too. When I used to travel to the States and things, I don't want to say by nobody else, but by Conky. So we remain with that, we chummy, but I hit your one, you know what I mean? And let me shake hand and forget it and move along,
That attitude has afforded you to survive this game?
Well, it depends on the person you are, You can't be one person pretending to be another person, And I feel sometimes, man, we could let things slip, let it slide, you know what I mean? Right. And just move on.
See a bigger picture.
Yeah, because I felt good about the song, and then he did justice to it, and the song became popular, you know what I mean? So that within itself.
So that gave you a boost.
Yes,
How were you able to use that?
Well, as a matter of fact, it just inspired me more and more throughout the years, because we're talking about the 60s, and that was in 62. And then,
And of course, with 62, we're talking independence, right? So
yeah,
I think the environment, the vibe around the time was a big, because your music captures
yes,
so much of,
but what really happened around that time, especially for the independence, I wasn't that prominent on the scene singing conscious songs yet.
right?
I was more still learning, observing, And in them days was Brian and Sparrow and Blakey and these guys and them. Guys when Brian won the independence, Kaiso, but Sniper and these guys and them, we were all supportive of them because that was the batch I used to be lineman with. They used to call me the baby at the tent, I was very young among these guys.
And I know that the tent in those days had a strong tradition where, young elders would guide.
Especially if they see I have the potentials, And these guys and them, they was, according to the old saying, they was very circumspect, neatly attired, well put away. And for the time you see them, you can know there's a Kaiso and a man you have to respect. Because,
These Calypsonians wore suits.
yes,
As a matter of course.
yes.
Why was that?
That was a tradition. I don't know who said it. I don't know if it's Kitchener or if it's Lion, or if it was said previously.
You just know that that's how it was.
Yes.
So in those days you had your suit?
Well, I wanted the Kaiso that break them traditions too, I break a lot of barriers in Kaiso. And when I'm making my jacket and thing, sometimes I really used to like to see me sew.
So that is Young Valley. How old?
That's in 1975. That's from Poet and Prophet.
1975.
Yeah.
And that is how you were presenting yourself. Well,
that kind of revolutionary.
yeah, bandana.
Yeah. You see how long I went bandana?
Gold and green.
Yeah. So then it's a long time.
So what informed this? I mean, clearly this is...
And let me tell you something. This was not even my idea. Asta Johnson maybe see that image in me. And this is Asta Johnson portrayal. This is when we did Poet and Prophet. That was one of the outfits I wear on one of these sessions.
Great. Tell me about Poets and Prophets, because that was a collaboration between yourself and Asta.
Yeah.
Okay, because look, my pause reason here, because that was 1970.
That was 1975.
75. Here we have a collaboration between yourself as a calypsonian and Asta as a choreographer.
Yes, and
What was that like?
And if you read the contents, which is so true, they say that calypsos could not be accepted outside of carnival season. And in May of 1975, I and Asta Johnson had 8 sold-out shows in Queen's Hall.
So you were actually breaking out, challenging that concept. Calypso could not be popular
outside of carnival.
But I'm even more interested in the fact that you were staging a show that was not just necessarily like a calypso show with people singing. It involved movement.
Yes, everything,
And here we are in 2022 where they're talking about doing carnival shows and calypso shows. As if it's a new thing.
No. I still had that vision so long, and the whole performance, Andre Tanka. We had a nice cast,
But it strikes me that your reach was beyond just calypso, because here you are describing collaborating with other contemporary artists.
Yes.
Working with fellas like Tanka.
Yes.
Just being
No, never. As a matter of fact, I and Asta went on tour out New York, Canada, the Guyana Cultural Center, Guyana, did some nice productions.
Do you think that was all a consequence of the scene at the time in the 70s and the black consciousness?
It was something that blew in the air, and everything was just, it was a natural, mystic kind of way, And these shows were so successful. Washington,
So how did these tours operate? Who would organize that?
Well, you see, Asta was a professional, and when you're a professional, you have links, So he had outside links. And you ever heard about the dancer Alex Haley?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, Asta used to be, these guys and them, I was fortunate enough to meet this guy, Muhammad Ali father.
Play.
Yes, fortunate enough to meet him. Yeah.
So you spent some time in New York or
Well,
just in and out? Were you-
the longest I ever stayed in New York is 6 months. But I always go and come, always moving, not too permanent. And that is why I never got lost up there. You know, because a lot of Carisonans, they get lost.
When you say lost, I mean
They lose touch. They lose touch with they lose touch. Yes, they lose touch. You know. The first time I went to New York, 1972, I met Conqueror and Nap up there because they were already up there. Yeah, and in those times, staying in New York was very easy. You know, as you know, and they begged me. I said, no, I will always go and come, and I never regret it because I might not be the person I am today, as far as my cultural life is concerned. Yeah.
Something was always putting you back.
Yes.
What made your music transition to this very strong consciousness, you know, and you could talk towards Wendell with that. Yeah.
Yes, well, from the late 60s, you know, it all started from since in Mandela time, you know, South Africa issue. But it was just a concern about the African on that side.
Would have been the emergence of Mandela and the ANC.
Yeah, and then in the 60s again, these guys James Brown and these guys Say It Loud and Black and I'm Proud and yeah, and then it's a breeze. They just feel it, you know. And I say to myself, boy, I sang a Kaiso, and the people they reach for that Kaiso so much, and after I tell myself, I say, Valley boy, never sing a Kaiso like that again. Calypso the name Boot Control. Yeah.
So what year was that?
That was in 70. But
were you Valley by then, or you still
I was
interested in when you became Valentino?
Yes, I was Valentino at that time. Yeah, but
If you back a little bit, how did you become Valentino?
I became Valentino after this guy stole my name.
So after
When Kitchener came to Trinidad in 1965, because it was in the early 60s this thing happened, 61, 62. I went through some weird experiences. So 64, I just take a little rest.
in 65,
Yeah.
you get a chance, Conky.
Yes, but same Conky partner, you know what I mean?
Kitch coming to
Yes, and he used to rub shoulders with Terra and Bomber and all these guys and them. So, you know, he had a little say. So when I fellas, he said, Kitch, this little fella here, Kitch watch me, copy guitar. He said, come boy. Funny, I feel to make a writer for the time. The man gave me an order, you know. I mean, he didn't say it nice.
Request. He demanded.
So anyhow, I come forward and he said, show your voice. So me, I don't know about showing you, them kind of tune, show your voice. Anyhow, I sing the first song, but he liked it because he's a fella, he knew Kaiso. Kitch is a fella who really knew calypso. You know. He's really a grandmaster. He knew Kaiso. He's watching me. He say, have a next song? I say, yes. He say, sing it. All I hear the part now. What's your name? I know name.
Your name in limbo.
Yeah. So everybody said, but we could come and sing Kaiso and he have a name. Musicians, Kaisonians who come, everybody trying to shout on him, this, that, the other, and they're laughing, you know. Out of the blue, Kitchener said, we go call him Valentino. That's my God. After all the big hurrah and all, all.
So,
and then, at the time, them guys used to socialize with Carmen Jones. You know, Carmen Jones is a black label rum.
yes.
And they used to have a little shot glass, they used to take and drink the water. A man pour a shot glass of that and threw it. Yeah, in the middle of everybody. I was christened a Kaisonan, you know. I mean, it might sound humorous, but I mean, it's used inside the world.
Yeah, that sounds like
By the mighty great Lord Kitchener, you know.
yeah, you get baptized.
Yes, you
That
know.
was your initiation.
Yeah, and call me Valentino, and from that time, I never let down that name.
I like how you describe the consternation it caused when you could show up without a name.
Yes, boy, I mean,
Because the idea, what was the importance of having a sobriquet?
well, in those times, Kaisonians used to be identified by alias names. Names that they, I don't know how they see themselves or what, but how they call themselves, that is maybe how they see themselves, like Terror,
Terror and all kind of things.
Tiger,
Inventor,
Growler,
beginner,
Inventor, Beginner, Kitchener,
Creator.
Lion,
some serious
Creator, you know, some very serious names, Zebra,
Right.
you know, Young Killer.
Young killer.
I mean, come on, I'm Valentino.
I'm struck by the fact that it's a tradition in the form, in that sense that you have to be embraced and accepted by an elder calypsonian.
Yes,
And
but
it's the first time I hear about the pouring of the.
I will tell you who changed it now, who changed our whole concept. Nap Hebron is the man who changed our concept, you know.
Because Nap never take on us.
Nap, yes, Nap was this, he was King Kobo.
Oh, God.
And every time Blake came in, Kobo, Kaiso, so, you know, and after he said, nah, he don't want that name. And then he said his name is Nap Hebron. And from the time Nap Hebron come on the scene, you hear, well, David Waller come, you hear Devon Seals, you know, and so many others, Aaron Duncan. And they
lost something with
yes, they lost part of the Kaiso.
yeah, part of the tradition.
Yes, part of the tradition.
You see, the sobriquet mask. Eh?
Yes, yes, when you take off the mask.
So in 65, you audition for Kitch,
Yes, and
you get through,
yes.
sing a song, and you say you would never sing a song like that again.
Yeah, well, that is leading up, you know, to the conscious part,
Right.
you know. And well, 66, 65, 66, 67. 66, we was in Good Samaritan Hall. That is when Sparrow left Good Samaritan and went down Rising Road. Kitchener had the opportunity to get the Good Samaritan Hall, but we only stayed there for 1 year. Was in 67 is when management started to take over Kaiso. That is when Jazzy Pantin.
The emergence of the legendary Jazzy.
Yes, that's when Jazzy Pantin take over the running of the tent in Legion Hall on Richmond Street. I don't know how many people remember Legion Hall on Richmond Street. That was the, and that was not even the Kaiso review. It was the Kaiso caravan. And then when Jazzy bring it across to Richmond Street, he changed the name from the Kaiso Caravan to the Kaiso Review.
Was Kitchener part of the setup at that time?
Yes, Kitchener was a part of the setup. But the original review tent was in Strand Theatre with Blakey and Fighter and these guys and them.
So there was another tent.
But if you check what happened now, the name spelled different. One is Revue,
Right.
and one is Revidew or something like that. So the spelling of the name that made the difference, you know. Blakey used to be in one of them tents that is in Strand with when Summer used to run it, that Review.
Right.
And Kitchener used to be the next Review.
So in those years following, the tent was shifting, Legion Hall.
Yes.
Something was happening to you in terms of, as you say, your consciousness and
Yes. Well, you know, you're moving around, you're learning, you want to line with the big Kaiso, and you want to feel, you know it is, you know. I mean, like, because of the love for something, you always want to be around it and the people who created it, the people who, you understand, so.
and as your school too, you're taking in lessons.
All right then.
You know, the education.
Yes, you know. So 66, 67, 68. In 69, when the consciousness really hit Trinidad, you know, I decided, look, I would try to change, you know, I would somehow or the other, I will tackle a different side of the Kaiso. Because I realized, I had the opportunity to say something and to go on stage and say something, and or best you say something to educate people and say something as substance,
Were other people taking a similar approach in those
well,
days?
the only body was Stalin.
Stalin, right? I was wondering.
Because when we reached down in Legion Hall, I and Stalin bounced up.
Right.
So we, from that time.
Iron sharpening iron.
Yes, so we was inspiration to each other.
Yeah.
So the consciousness started to really gravitate and get stronger.
I want to just dive a little deeper into something you said. You say in '69 when the consciousness hit Trinidad, what form did that take? What
you could have feel a difference. People started complaining. Things you're starting to hear.
And I guess the honeymoon of independence was over.
Yes, and then Daga on the scene too.
Daga, the emergence of Daga.
Yes,
They had some West Indians in the school riot.
Yeah, but we come into that.
Right.
Yeah, so George Williams.
I just want to get the general vibe.
Yes, yeah.
What the feeling was.
But what busts up in the whole thing now is when Rosie Douglas and these guys and them up in Sir George Williams, set the pace up there.
That was the Canadian.
Yes, yeah. No.
A lot of people ask, why did an incident in Canada have such an impact in Trinidad at the time?
Well, they were UWI students, and then it was the UWI student that picked up the cause, Daga is from UWI. It's from UWI that thing starts, It didn't just say, well, it start on the street in a backyard where a man getting a little meeting, having a meeting, It's in UWI. Right. From UWI to UWI, Rosie and them fellas was UWI students, and they was really going through some pressure. So they burned down the place. But what really happened now, the man who was in charge of that university up there,
he visited Trinidad.
And Daga said, nah. And from that time, that is when all hell break loose.
So this thing went from the university
to on the street.
Right, to make a big leap.
Yes, yeah.
Now, I grew up in Belmont. The other little boy in the 70s watching my older cousins and them, watching the fellas by the street light, being very aware that there was a kind of political education taking place on the street.
Yes.
In those days.
Yes, you understand? So according to Bob, it was a natural mystic blowing in the air, And my thoughts went with it.
Right. And what was the first offering that you came with that you think crystallized that?
No revolution.
69.
70.
It would be 70 by then.
Yeah. I wrote it in 70, but I sang it in 71. No revolution.
And what was the reception to that?
The reception was sometimes 50-50, sometimes 60-40. There was people still against the move. You won't find everybody would agree with what I was saying at the time, because everybody can't be on the same side. But I realized that I was saying something. And from there, the thing just exploded.
You could give us a line.
I was not what to say, if you don't mind giving us that.
You talk about power, doctor, it's you who have power. I know when you act, it would have been a horse of a different color. You give them an inch, they take a whole yard, and when you hand them under your clinch, people say you're bad. Well, when I heard you address the nation, I knew what was your intention. But some of the powers you exercise, unfortunately, I must criticize. We didn't want them trigger-happy police. We only wanted to demonstrate in peace. Yet my people was held and charged for sedition. We was marching for equality, black unity, and black dignity. Dr. William, no, we didn't want no revolution. And you hear how it started, And it was very interesting to the audience from verse 1 to coming down the road. And people just, you know, some people, they dig it and they must say something like what say. Some agree.
It would have been very brave of you to take
But,
on
but,
the duck.
you see, because I never want to sing for no crown, you know. And next thing people are telling me, well, Valley boy, you know you this and then. I never come out to butt up no judge's mouth. I come out to spread a message, so to speak then. My intentions is and was never to win any crown. But John public will see it in a different way. You understand?
So,
but that was never my intention. So that is why my freedom of speech,
so do you think
no
that
crown could not come before that.
focus on competition takes away from your ability to express yourself freely?
Particularly, not my ability, the calypsonian's ability.
The calypso
Yes,
ability.
yeah.
You think that the competition...
Yes, you want to butt up the judges' mouth, you want the judges to go like that, you know, and man.
The competition has resulted in...
The competition is what have Kaiso in the position it is today. Because if they used to promote the art and not compete with it, it would have been much further.
So here you are in the 70s with this...
Yes, with this
thinking, which was rather revolutionary.
Yes, and it only grew.
Very intrigued by the details around
yes.
the 70s and
yes.
what was happening to you,
yes.
and what gave you that courage. Because, you know, Reasons Have a song says it's safe to, you know,
yes.
express yourself in a yes man society. And the whole idea of competition being a stilting force, I share that opinion. So I take a lot of inspiration and example from fellas like you who've been doing the thing there.
Yes, my brother. And leading up to that now, here comes, well, I mean, in 1974 was, I made a serious statement to the society. I think that's one of my most serious statements I ever made in calypso.
Which one is this?
A calypso named Victim of Society. You know? And, well, I tell the society, well, look me here. Only love me, only hate me, only kill me, only do what? But this is me, you know? And from there on, I realized that there was a lot of red tapes.
So, okay.
Throughout my career.
Calypsonian Victim of Society, what is the role of the Calypsonian to society? What is the value of the Calypsonian to society in your mind?
Well, I have a Kaiso named what boy? Calypsonian is the only true opposition. We have no opposition in the House of Parliament. So politically, it's we who have to comment about this government. But the tune you chanting is wrong. Yet you keep singing along like you join the bunch of the wrong and strong. Well, sing your song. But if you check where Kaiso come from, was the black man's cry and protest? No panorama and the mash have your heads in a mess. What a mess. Since in the days of Attila, Kaiso showed its true color. I wonder if you people know the importance of Kaiso. As sure as calypso is the culture of this land, the calypsonian is the only true opposition. That is what I think about the Kaiso.
You just say something that Naipaul say in all his sourness and not like in Trinidad. He says the calypsonian is the only true cultural exhibit.
You understand? Just a clash of thoughts, eh?
Yeah, I mean, he from a whole other perspective,
yes.
but just reinforcing what you said. So do you think that from that POV, the calypsonian is living up to the role and responsibility of the calypsonian today?
Well, commercial values and other attractions, you know, medical and lossy is purpose.
Yeah. And here we are today.
Yeah.
So you have been challenging these ideas for a long, long time because in one of your songs you even disagree with your own chorus.
Yes. You see that? But that's the one that really, I mean, I won't say put me in trouble, but really, I mean, like, I had all eyes on me then. Trinidad is nice.
Of course.
Trinidad is a paradise. Trinidad is nice for men like Sabda. Ogunani Maral, Trinidad is a paradise. Here's something. Business is going swell. On your oil, them foreign parasites dwell.
Bad song, you know.
Nobody even saying nothing close to that.
No, you understand? And then like, sorry about the gesture, you know, sorry all the time. Yeah.
Them is song.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't, that,
That one get you in trouble.
yeah, well, I mean, that was the one because, I mean, like,
Good trouble.
even kitchen and all, you know, say, but the boy calling people name, you know, that time, Kaiso and calling people names too, no matter what.
That was unheard of in those days.
Yes,
Another way to say.
yeah. But that was me. You know what I mean? You see, I come out with a purpose, you know. I come to sing Kaiso with a purpose.
So do you find that you were getting a reception, like you said 60-40 earlier on, what was it like now by the time you come around with this one?
Well, I mean, full acknowledgement, but you know, the society still has the eyes on you, yes, the red tapes. For instance, this girl, Deborah Maylard, when she used to have a radio program, she called me for an interview at a time. You know, we had a nice interview. So when we finished, she said, come, let me show you something. It have a place along the way, it have records, shelves of records, or they select, you know. She said, look at this here, X, red X, red X. If you see how much I red X on my music,
Yeah?
she said, if I play any one of them, I want a job. But I mean,
Because this is a question I wanted to ask you to do with the radio stations at the
That
time.
was about us. About
You know?
play.
How were you treated by the radio stations as a whole?
well, let me tell you something. I could play my music from in the morning and all now, I have a USB. It's one, I made a lot of recordings, you know, real recordings, you know. But it's how much does be played?
So back in those, I mean, I remember hearing some.
Really, a lot of recordings, you know.
But your
Yeah.
stuff was playing in the 70s on the radio.
Yes.
Because, I remember hearing it.
Yes. But still, I would say about a quarter of my work is being aired, if so much.
Yeah.
The majority still, you know.
Well, following in your footsteps, the same with our music.
Yes, you see, to the powers that be, and powers that be include the business sector and everybody, because when you check it out, it's one body. They would rather promote the soca man and the fellow who ain't saying nothing. If the soca man have a fete, you know what, it's beer, drink, and you sing, and you wind up, and if the calypso don't have a fete, you will say, nah, boy, them fellas go down pong way.
Right. So, what about the people?
You understand?
The people have a role in that transaction.
Yes. No, they think about themselves alone.
People have been appropriated along for the ride as well, in that but the people will say, I want to hear this kind of calypso.
Well,
Support you and encourage you to keep doing your thing.
yes, you see, but then sometimes when you go for the support, the ones that support you is the cooperative business, you know. Corporate business always support, but it's who they support, you know. And if corporate business was very supportive of the culture, Kaiso presently now would not be in the situation there is right now, because the one day now if they must have a tent and they have enough money and
So
bring and all
those
kind of
days you're calling out Kupulani, Marat, Whitey Lemon, name Big and Bull, frightening the rest of the calypso.
You see, too, yeah, but you have to open the people's eyes. Who open the people's eyes? You have to open the people's eyes. So, all right, let me put it this way. Somebody has to do the dirty work.
You take it upon yourself. And Stalin was keeping you company.
Yes.
Were there more people coming into the fold at that time?
Well, I could see Duke on a more international level and a more local.
That was beautiful.
Yes, you know what I mean? Where as I was more dealing with the affairs of people living here then,
Right.
and the conditions and whatnot.
And in those days, you would have been forging relationships with Astas in
Yes,
Studio.
yes.
What about Cheryl Byron? Was Cheryl Byron in
Yes, Cheryl Byron, and I used to perform on shows.
Yeah?
Yeah, but that's something. We did some nice shows. Abdul Malik, who in England now.
Malik the Bad Poet.
Yes. Yeah,
As
man.
opposed to Abdul Malik, who was Michael X.
Yeah, well. Not he.
Not he.
When he come down here, he had one big thing down Manzalina and Vincent said, Valley, let me go. Was a Calypso season 2.
Yeah.
Some big thing here. I said, I ain't going anywhere.
You ain't go?
And I didn't know what the fellow, I didn't know his intent at the time. Eh?
Just didn't get the vibes.
But I just didn't get the vibes to go and I didn't go.
Do you still write and record?
I will record, but the writing, if someone come to me now and ask me, well, so and so, and give me a little idea, but to say, well, let them, I write too much already, man, too much,
And there's some young artists come
Yeah.
to you and say, look,
Yeah,
they discovered
right.
your songs and they can't.
I'm willing to assist, willing to help them with the idea, but to say, Valentino writing something now to go in the studio to compete with this and that, I mean, come on, man.
Have songs there that I mean, Smokey
But-
Joe. Tell me about Smokey Joe.
Smokey Joe, let me give all the thing about Smokey Joe. Now when I studied Poet and Prophet, Smokey Joe was one of the songs written by Andre Tanker.
That was an Andre Tanker song.
Everything, melody, lyrics,
I
from
was
start to finish,
wondering about that.
everything. Now, somehow or the other, when it comes to that segment, which Smokey Joe had to be, Andre, like, I don't know, I don't know if he did Freddy song, whatever, but they put me to sing Smokey Joe at the last section of the program, to climax the show. My section, Smokey Joe was in that, and we finishing it off down there. So through about 8 or 9 concerts that are going through that whole thing, when the concert finished, Andre went down by Stan, the same Stan and David, and put down the music.
Okay. So those guys were based here?
No, Max wasn't here.
Oh.
Max was not here yet. When Andre put down Smokey Joe, Max was not here.
That was Max Serrao,
No, a fellow named Max Middleton.
Middleton.
Max Serrao is the man who makes Stay Up Zimbabwe, and bunks it to 18. That man was a master, Yeah.
That's our next month.
That's, yeah, he's something else.
Come into that.
Focus on this Smokey Joe.
Yeah.
That mega bomb.
Yeah, so then I'm just say, boy, Valley boy, all that chat that sound like a tale I make for you, And I just walk into the studio and record my voice and the music that Andre put on.
Right. So he just recognized somewhere inside of it.
Yeah,
your delivery of
yes,
it.
like it was tailor made for me.
But there's an ease with which you inhabit
Yeah,
song.
yes,
And there's
so-
an ease with which you inhabit most of your songs and the way the melody unfolds
Mm-hmm.
in very, very delightful way. And very subtle, but very delightful way.
Yes, man.
I'm intrigued about your inspiration. Who or what inspired you? And you speak so deeply and fondly about Kaiso and calypso.
You see, because I was born in Kaiso. In that a little fella, your mother and your father is Kaiso. I'm 81 years old.
Right.
In them times when I was a little fella, they had to mix up music to
And this is
study
Bellevue.
people. And that is in Bellevue.
Same
You understand? If you go to a wedding, it's Kaiso music you're dancing anyway. You go to a christening, it's most Kaiso music they play. It's a no big set or otherwise you might hear a little bolero or something like that. So it was a Kaiso influence.
Stood out for you.
I always loved Kitchener for his simple style.
Okay.
Kitchener, as a man, would make a Kaiso with a 4-line verse and a 2-line chorus. And it sounded very effective. You know what I
You
mean?
didn't write like that.
No, well, as time go by, yeah. But as time go by to Kitchener, extend on his lyrics, But he was very simple and easy to catch on. So Kitchener, and who again, boy? I like Beginner, but Beginner really was not this. I mean, he hadn't this big repertoire song. But I really love him for the song Louise. Because Louise was my mother's name, and we really like the song until, and nice to hear that. I think it is for you.
Those simple, powerful
Yes,
melodies,
you understand? So, I mean, and in them times, you know, Kaiso was something that you used to feel like it had a spirit you used to feel. That even sometimes, you know, people say, tell you, boy, you're singing Kaiso in the place. When I sing Kaiso, and sometimes too, that spirit, like it was so powerful, they couldn't deal with it. So most of the time, you find the old folks who really, you know, don't understand the magic of the Kaiso.
And do you find that they were willing to encourage you to follow that?
Not my mother and father. You know, because they were Kaiso lovers, and as a matter of fact, when I reached to the age that I could take the bus and go and purchase a record, at the age of, let me say, 10, 11 years in Bellevue, the bus, right by the bus stop, I pay me 5 cents, I drop out in Marine Square, I walk across by Sagom's, I buy me 2 vinyl record, because if the record fall on my shop, we're in trouble.
Yeah, like 2.
Yes. You have to, sometimes they tell me to buy 2. You know?
I never heard that one before.
Yes, and then Sagom's used to have the boys and them used to send the records from London, you know. Nothing they used to be recording down here, you know.
Okay.
Sagom's and them just used to be selling it.
Right.
But the records and them used to be producing. That way they always say Kitchener send down and Kitchener send down, and then for, that was the order of the day.
To record here?
Well,
Like when you came on the scene, they had
when I went with Samaru and K recording and these guys, and then there was Christopher, that's on Charlotte, that's on Nelson Street. K record, not Nelson Street, yeah.
It was still there, no?
Yeah, Telco and, you know.
Take all the equipment and go.
Yeah, and Kate and these guys, but them then coming to, I mean, long after, you know.
PH was later.
Yeah.
How were you able to afford to record in those days? You had the producer?
Oh, well, let me tell you, I was one of the lucky ones that my first recording, No Revolution and Boat Control, a man named Low Kwam. He had an office on Frederick Street. He recorded me.
And how that used to look back in the day from out?
The producer, but then and I mean the money was small, but I used to look at the money. I used to look at what I do and the mileage you could get.
Copyright and all that kind of thing in those days?
They had copyright with Ben Romani, but he was not such a nice guy, you know, because he sold out all our rights to Eddie Grant, you know, and that's where the bacchanal come in. Like even Valerie telling me that she had to wait on Eddie Grant to get Kitchener royalty. You could be that. So, and then Ben Roman didn't go anyway and leave everything in.
So that part of the game was always little.
Yes. Yeah, and let me tell you, that's just how I get to know Leston Paul. Because Leston used to be working in Ben Romani's office, copywriting the scores and things for Ben for Californians and things. I never knew that he had so much talent until he did something for Duke, and he did something with me, something named Brand New Revolution and the Big Apple. Yes, and that's why I discovered Leston.
All right, so you're responsible for bringing Leston forward?
Yes, I was the second person that Leston recorded with.
And who would you have been recording with prior before to give you those signature sound that you had in the 70s?
Ed Watson.
Ed Watson?
Yes, Striker used to produce them records at the time, Anvil.
Right.
Yeah, Ed Watson.
Ed Watson and the brass circle.
Yes, Ed Watson, yes, and the brass circle. Yeah, man.
So we talk about Smokey Joe, and the mention of a big tune pop up there, because see my good friend Robin here, about Ethiopia.
Yes, Ethiopia shall rise again. You know, that was when I started to reflect on the 70s, especially with the soldiers and the revolution side of it, and the whole diaspora, you know. That is why when I say Ethiopia, it's the diaspora meaning.
Because every time I hear that song, I think Rastafari.
Yes.
I think Rastafari.
Yes,
is it? At the same time.
Yes, it's the whole diaspora. Yeah, you know.
Was Bob Marley big on the scene then, or now emerging?
Well, let me, as I say, Bob Marley, look come here go. You know, I met Bob.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that they have to be lucky.
The first raise, and I saw him perform 3 times live, so you can imagine. And the first place I saw him was on Broadway in New York.
So, Valley, touching on the idea of Ethiopia will rise again and what that song was touching on in the time that it was touching on.
Yeah.
And I said to me, in my mind, I think of two things. I think of Rastafari and I think of Bob Marley. And you were about to
Yes.
give us some serious history.
Old Bob Marley. I I used to live behind the bridge, a place named Anizet Street at the time.
Right.
So it's just a cool walk around the bridge. I was coming around to meet Peggy. That time,
Right. Are you courting this?
Yes, man. And these two guys coming along in this little mini Austin, and I walk in front, they're driving, and then it stopped right in front of me. And when I do something, I say, I make out Ellie. So then Ellie say, Val, you know who that is? And I do so. I say, but I Bob. He say, yeah, my brother, my love stop Zimbabwe, you know. That's the greetings the brother gave me. He told me that he was going down to Brazil because he's going to open a recording studio down there. We had a little chat, but in them times, no selfie and documents and thing, So that's just a memory then, And I tell him, I say, well, boys, I check you out on Broadway.
And let me seen them before.
Yes, and let me tell you, I was in Washington, and we had to take a plane to come down to New York to see this guy. And when we reached down there, the amount of people I seen, but I had my ticket. That is why, everything that's set up for me. We wasn't going to look for nothing. We had everything just so. But we had us to travel by plane. When we reached in front of the place, I said, well, when I reached inside, the amount of people that was inside was outside. That time he was real hot.
Bob N.E.
Yeah, he was pushing Rastaman Vibration, that album. Yeah. So from that time I see him.
Then that was Megastar Zone.
Yes.
And what about when he was here?
And then when he came down here, well, I and Ellie tight and Bob. So I had the opportunity to see him in PSC. And then in Napa, not what the place name? Not Napa anymore, not Skinner's Park.
Skinner Park? You
Yes.
did 2 shows here?
Yes. One in Skinner Park.
Well, I know the PSA show is legendary because it had all kind of man bust down the
Man bust down the wall. There's a wall they bust. And I was, when they break down a wall just to see this man. Yeah, man, and then I saw him in Skinner's Park. And the next guy that I performed to with the Rasta with the diamond, Big Youth.
The Youth, yes.
When Big Youth came in the first appearance here, I performed with him.
Okay.
And then when Tush was down here, I performed with Tush too.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because definitely it was an affinity going on.
Yes, yeah. So I had experiences with most of these Jamaican artists, and then when they had this Sunsplash down here, I was part of the whole program up in Serendipity. Yeah. So
and of course, Marley had his Zimbabwe, but you also had your Zimbabwe.
But Kenna, let me tell you something. If you check Marley's Zimbabwe, and if you hear how he started, right? Brother, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're so right. We go fight, we have to fight. So it's a pickup from there.
You flow me with that one.
Yeah.
Rock my back with that one. You're right.
Yeah. That's just why when he meet me, that's the first greetings he give me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a pickup from there.
Came before his?
Yes, because the guy that I used to deal with, a guy named Peter Thornhill, he had Jamaican connections. So some of a good batch of Stab Zimbabwe went up to Jamaica.
Those horns were down there?
No, those horns were.
There's horns, yeah.
The record, the finished product. We sent up a batch to Jamaica because Thornhill, who was my manager at the time, had a Jamaican connection. Right. So some of the music got around to certain areas.
Was there a bigger Caribbean connection in calypso in those days? Or, I mean, I know calypso used to travel up the islands a lot. And
Well, I mean, like St. Thomas was a
center.
Was a Kaiso center for that. You see, St. Thomas. St. Vincent and these little places really appreciate and accept calypso a lot too. But on a wider scale, and on a more permanent something, you always find because St. Thomas was a kind of tourist place. So as a matter of fact, Soupy used to hang out up there a lot.
Soupy was based there.
Yes, you know what I mean? Because things happen, if things ain't happening, Soupy ain't going to be there.
So your stuff breaking into Jamaica would have been unprecedented for calypso in that sense?
Well, it could be, yes. You know, although I have to confess, Jamaica is one place I've never been to. You know? I passed through Jamaica when I was going to Cuba, but I never stepped up on Jamaican soil.
You performed in Cuba?
Yeah.
What was the experience like in Cuba?
I mean, fantastic, man. Yeah.
What was your occasion?
Carry Festa.
Carry Festa?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man. The Spurs and them guys had nice time with Olaf Charles and Clive Bradley. And
Were you part of Festac as well?
No.
Oh, you didn't make it at Festac.
No.
What year was that Carry Festa?
I was in 79.
70.
Carry Festa is one big cultural affair coming to where country here representing countries. Countries, you know, you're representing a country. And at the end of the day, you give your best performance because the people that the country send out to Carry Festa is the most prominent artists, the best artists. So the people who perform in the Carry Festa, they're really getting, you know, something of value then, you know. And that is what Carry Festa is all about, I feel, highlighting your best artists.
Talk to me about resistance.
Well, resistance is that people I know used to come by me along Anisette Street when he leave UE. He come mentor and assistant named Hazel. And from there, you know, we always used to have some nice cultural rap and thing. And then with Shortman too, which that's the brother I was more related to.
Oh, you knew for Shortman?
The Shortman, the red man. That's the original Rapsoman, you know.
So you were more familiar with
Shortman, yes. But then Shortman
strikes me as being the real.
Yeah, that's it. That is the man. That's Rapso with him.
That's the man, right?
Yes. But with the absence, there is somebody had to take over. And that's where resistance stepped in. But iron resistance, you know, I mean, like, I wouldn't say I was his tutor or whatnot, but, you know, I used to give him advice. We used to deal with the culture. Sometimes we leave UE, have some nice little rap and thing, and then when they, you know, they used to invite me to work with them, little shows, whatever. And our relation, you know, started to build from there. But then somehow or the other, you know, we didn't maintain that closeness.
But he is.
You know, but you know, sometimes, well, you know, I mean, like, you can't tell a man how to live or how to move or what to move on, you know, but I realized that we was not that close, but the respect was still there.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yes, you know, and I admire that brother because when coming to rap, so, you know, I mean, like, you have to give him the thing.
And you knew Lancelot?
Of course, Lancelot Lane. Yeah, man, Lancelot Lane came on by me already, and we had some nice chat and thing. Before he went to Africa too, you know, Lancelot Lane been to Africa where the slaves and them used to exit.
You been to Africa?
Yeah.
Where have you been?
We passed through South Africa and I've been Zimbabwe.
Oh, so you've been to Zimbabwe?
Yeah. Perform in Zimbabwe, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us that whole story.
Yes.
Well, that story was like a fairy tale, you understand? And it was the Zimbabwe Carnival.
Okay.
And, you know, it was such an experience that the carnival, they lined the street, and the street long, you know. I sure I'm obviously about 1 million people. I'm sure about that. The length of the street and the line up on both sides, and we in the middle of the street traveling on a float, like a truck then. And then Exodus, steel band. So you could imagine.
That wasn't too long ago then?
No, that was just about 7 years ago. Yeah, Exodus. It was a real experience. And then I see a carnival queen show in Zimbabwe. If you see these girls and them, I mean, I don't know how they just look at Africa, you know, they always look at the dull side of Africa. If you see how these girls, and if you see the heels, if you see the garment, it's a queen contest, and the winner get a Jaguar car. You know, I mean, like the hotel we used to stay in had an ordinary black boy. He had about a little fleet of cars. He had about 5 cars, and if you see this, I mean, the brand of these cars and things, you know what I mean? So there's a bright side of Africa too, not just the hot and the, you know, I mean, we have a nicer side of Africa.
What were your thoughts like on the journey there? You know,
well,
tell us that story.
Well, how to put it, boy? I was anticipating what? I mean, like, in great anticipation of what? You know? I mean, having seen Africa on the screen and the image that they paint of it, you know, that is what I was really in my mind. When I reached in South Africa, and I see how this place is, you know, South Africa is the richest place in the world, for real.
Really, I got the opportunity to go twice, and
you could win that bet easy, you know. Yeah.
With all the diamond and gold.
Yes, boy. They have them in South Africa, boy. South Africa. And the greetings I got when I come off the plane and I reach in South Africa, I feel like if I did reach home.
A homecoming.
Yeah, boy. A brother, he's selling one of them boots, nice boots and thing. And he see me say, "Welcome, brother, you come home." And I pause the ways again and say, "Yeah, boy." That's the greetings I get, you know. "Welcome, brother, you come home." And I just walked straight across to the desk and started talking to the brother. Like if we had known each other for a long, long time. So that's the first spot we touched. And when we cleared the immigration and the brother gave me that greetings, I walked straight towards the counter. And we started talking, and I just pulled out a record, I signed it for him, and I gave him it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you know, that was a nice memory.
Music, the gift of music.
Yeah.
Welcome home, brother.
Yeah. And would you believe, when I went in the museum in Zimbabwe, I saw the copy of Bob Marley, Zimbabwe, written up in the museum. Yeah.
So many times, you know, our story of calypso and calypsonians, and you hear the stories of neglect and the stories of not feeling appreciated, and they talk to people and they're bitter, and but you don't strike me as anything close to that.
I just tell my wife, no, I might be very serious, but I kind of childish in certain things. So I just tell girl, I see happiest guys you know, you know. Yeah. I just make a joke. I just feel so.
Just feel so.
Yeah. So I just.
But
you know.
Let's talk about Peggy a minute, because she has been there with you.
No. Well, she dies an extra. That is my right hand, my left hand, my eye, my everything. I mean, yes. Yeah. I mean, oh Lord.
Yeah.
She's at that.
You mentioned your courting days by the
we about 40 years now we together.
And for those who don't know, your wife Peggy is a former national athlete of note. They made history.
Yes, represented the country for 11 years, and at least, as Manwarren says, they made history because, you know.
They seriously made history.
Yeah.
When I met them days, the impact of that net was phenomenal.
Yes. And up to now, we can't find the next team like that.
Up to now.
No, boy.
But so what role has she played in supporting you in your career?
You know, I never drive myself to work yet, and from the time I've been going to work, for all these years, my wife has been, you know, but before we had a ride, which was about 2 or 3 years before, she accompanied me to work every night, and, you know, she was always right and there for me. Peggy, I want a cup of water. Peggy, bring this to me. Peggy, I forget this. Everything is Peggy, up to this day. And she's very supportive, you know. I mean, like, what Peggy wouldn't do for me, I don't know.
Couldn't ask for more, right?
I couldn't ask for more, you know, really and truly. And I'm not saying that with any idle boast, but it's very few calypsonians could say that about a spouse, you know. Because you know the Kaiso man life is that kind of life, eh? No, but you see me, I get to understand this life, and happiness is a hell of a thing, you know. You can be happy and feel you're happy, and you have other things on your mind. And
Pretense at happiness.
Yes, you know. I don't have nothing, I want to have a very clear conscience, you know. Because I mean, I find what I'm looking for a long time. So come on, man.
So that sense of having found what you're looking for.
And it helps us to build a foundation, live together, create something, create a nice life. We have one son, you know, and he's 34 years now. That's just how long we together. Our son is 34 years. He's sleeping inside. I saw you. Maybe before you go, if you wake up, I'll introduce you. And
yeah, you have a long, happy marriage.
Yes, and you know, I mean, sometimes along the way, couples will have a little misunderstanding where the wife might leave and go by she mother, or she might go somewhere, or we never had no separation, no nothing of that sort. And you know, I say I'm blessed, you know, here. You know, I thank God for the life He gave me, and that beautiful wife, you know, very supportive. I mean, Lord Father, sometimes I doesn't want to think about, you know, even the absence of my wife, or, you know. Yeah. And, you know, she made a valuable contribution to within her, you know, her area, to children, to, you know, I mean, to the sport, and still contributing,
and keeping you going.
And keeping me going. Yeah, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of things I want to get in. Where were you born?
I was born in Grenada, Cherry Hill, on the 7th of the 7th month, 1941.
Okay, all right.
When I left Grenada, I was not 4 years yet. When I reached here, then the 4 years complete.
You settled in
Bellevue. In Bellevue, yes.
All right, so okay, all right. So you live all your young life in Bellevue.
In Bellevue.
All right.
Yes.
When was the first time you realized that you was musically inclined, or you could write songs, or you could, you know?
Well, let me go over this one. I could remember, you know, as a child, you just remember certain things, eh? And I could remember as a child when I was coming through Bellevue. I don't know if you know the entrance to Bellevue. Up Long Circular Road, there's a wide entrance and you're going there. Now, at the bottom of the entrance, at the main road, I know, I see like steel band and like people assembling. And it's then my mother tell me, but you know, you reach here on a Juve morning because we leave Grenada Carnival Sunday night.
Oh, you're right. Juve morning in Trinidad.
So that is why I say, but I used to call her Muds. I say, but Muds, you know, I see people with pan and this and that, and she say, yes, it's Juve morning, you come here. So I reach in Trinidad on a Juve morning.
That's plenty.
Nice.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So when you go to that question though, I just want to ask something about the Grenada side before I always am amazed at how many Grenadian heritage people are in our culture.
Yes.
You, Ella, Sparrow, Roy Cape,
Bama.
Duke,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And on and on and on. Share with us any thoughts you have as to the power of Grenada and in our culture. What accounts for that?
I'll tell you something. Eh? First and foremost, Grenadians always had a love for Trinidad and Trinidadians. Wherever Trinidadian, he would aspire to go to the States. A Grenadian always want to go south. I want to go south. South means Trinidad. He always want to go south. So the Grenadian, how to put it, boy, he could only see south because Point, Labre, Lavante, you know, that the Grenadian exodus, like it was always for Trinidad And that is how everything developed.
My grandmother from there.
You understand what I'm saying?
My mother from there.
You understand what I'm saying?
Deep.
Very, very deep. The exodus. Always want to go
I always
south.
have people who want to talk about Juve say, well, we Juves are Juve up here to Grenada Juve.
Yes, yeah,
As a Juve man, I am saying when I see the real thing, I have full respect.
I hear you. I have a picture, a brother sent me Juve morning. If you see them job, see that. If you see that picture, yeah, man.
Yeah,
If
them
you see the
show
job,
me and all them kind of things.
yeah.
Serious cultural retention. I grew up seeing NUFF on the wall down by Bella Road.
Yeah.
Big. You know, but it wasn't one of those things that you could talk about. I mean, I remember being a youth in Black Power days. Geddes Granger, later Macandal Dagger. His sister was my Auntie Gloria. You know, his family connections. That uncle was in the regiment. So it was close to him.
I had all of that.
And my grandfather wanted to kick him out of the house. So in Belmont in those days, it was very, very palpable.
Yes.
It was also one of them things you didn't talk about or it wasn't explained to you. So I was always intrigued by enough and still have no idea the full story.
No.
So you wouldn't want to go into any other story?
Well, like, you know, like I sang a song, what is the name of the song again, boy? Remember Basil Davison, Guy Hayward and Brother Valentine, Beverly Jones, Brian Jefferson, the others whose lives went down on the line. I wonder if these people gave their lives for a hopeless cause, and for their deaths, all those responsible people, the verdict is yours. But Trini have a very funny way of forgetting a history to them like it don't mean nothing. The history that went down here in the 1970s, as though it never was today in this century. But don't care how they try to tarnish these historic memories, I will always remember the roaring 70s. So I have a song named The Roaring 70s on that issue.
I've seen the man who wrote the book.
Yeah.
And the idea of the book.
Yeah.
And you also had the theme song of that time, I Would Die for Black People Liberation.
Liberation, yeah. Liberation.
SLR Bullet would take me out of existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, while you're singing some things there, conjuring some imagery, you know, I mean, excuse me, I moved things. Now, honestly, because you talk about the role of the calypsonian earlier on, and the power and the responsibility, and the powers that be, and actually what about the people? And I you know, you saying this thing so long,
Yeah.
and you're still smiling. And at it a fraction of the time, and I vex and cussing half the time, and wondering what's the point of this and that, you know? So,
Actually, you know, one of the things that's always strike me about you is your whole demeanor is so calm and peaceful. Even the way you would stand and deliver the Kaiso.
Yes, but
What?
simple but effective.
But what you're singing about
Yes.
is
Yes.
something
Yeah.
very
Yes.
strong.
Yes.
So the personality and the
And
music
the message.
and the message,
Yes.
you know, and
It's-
so this
it's
because
two
the
different-
messages are hard,
Yeah.
the good one, you know.
I hear you. But if you're saying something, you know, to that magnitude, to that effect, you have to know how to say it.
yeah. I had to learn how to curb my temper.
You know, you have to know how to say it.
No, I mean, thank you, because that quality of grace is not manifest a lot these days, you know. And I was about to ask, you know, your relationship to Trinidad and Tobago at this stage. What's your feeling
Well,
of the society that you describe?
let me tell you something. I had umpteen opportunities to live in the States permanent like any other calypsonian. To live, as a matter of fact, in London. the only place I really ever loved is Trinidad, you know. I mean, I have regards and some love for the country that I was born in. But there's a big but. Trinidad is all I know. Trinidad is where I gain everything from. You know, Trinidad is a place that when I see Trinidad, and I've been a lot of places, I've been a lot of places, and I compare something about Trinidad, my brother.
You keep choosing it.
Yeah, I just keep choosing it.
So how do you feel about where we are now, society?
Well, I mean, the place is one thing, right? But the people too, you know, I mean, a Trinidadian will always be a Trinidadian, you know, and he's a fella that you could hardly change, you know. In that it's part of his history. Now, Jamaica have a different kind of attitude. Check all the other islands and check the Trinidadian. It's something about he that is very different to all the others.
Some would say it's our history.
Um,
They have a
you see, and
mix.
what I'm telling Trini too, he's the kind of man could transform himself into anybody. You will have Trini in America talking like a Yankee and you want to know, and then he switches to Jamaican. Whereas the other islands, they can't twist their twang so. That is why today, that they're not even singing in the language again.
So
First, these people on the
it's very
stage.
easy first. It's so easy to adapt. We could lose yourself.
Yes, but you understand?
Yeah.
In the twinkle of an
But
eye,
it's also this thing that affords us to take on so many different people from different places. And to use a Trini.
you understand? So Trini is a very unique person. You can't blame him for what he is. You cannot blame him for what he is. Because there are times he could be dynamite. You understand? People feel
There is such a
there
place.
is a fun loving spring and setting. This is the land where people don't care if Ash Wednesday fall on Good Friday. Man, they love to struggle in this happy-go-lucky way. It's Blockorama, Fetorama, and just now it's Masorama. So the foreigner come for carnival, and he telling himself after he had a ball.
Trinidad is nice. Trinidad is our paradise.
Mr. Foreigner, in La Trinity, you people have a carnival mentality.
Trinidad is nice. Trinidad is our paradise.
They are not serious, very few conscious, so I cannot agree with my own chorus.
Stop the recording, stop the presses, the man say can't really use chorus.
But that used to break down the tent.
Eh?
Yeah. But after that, you introduced the idea of revolution. You know, you throw
But I hear the people talking about a revolution. You see that? That is where the serious part comes in.
Fire
I mean,
on the way. That was it.
And that is what the classic.
You know, Valley, folks and prophets. You have a term that I like to use, right? I say, when I'm working on something, I say, this one is cool and deadly.
Yes.
You epitomize
Cool and
cool and deadly. I'm telling you.
Yeah, boy, I mean,
Epitomize it. Cool
yeah,
and deadly.
he had to carry a title. Sometimes the people is get a title that, you know, regardless of what. Even if they didn't tell you, you just have it in the mind then. You know what I mean? But it's nice to know that your work could have effect on people in a positive way.
And you know, we ain't talking about the real thing yet.
In a positive way.
We ain't talking about the
Like this on stage?
no, Blood Brothers.
Right,
Yes.
brothers?
Yeah.
Blood Brothers was the next Astor Johnson production again.
Right,
With me and
okay.
Stalin. That one
and
was,
Stalin?
yeah, that one was dynamite. Boy.
Right.
Blood Brothers. Yeah, it was a combination, you know.
And what year was this?
70, that was same 79.
So, yeah.
79.
Yeah. 75 I did Poet and Prophet. And then in 79 I installed the Blood Brothers.
Out of Carnival production.
Out of Carnival. Yes, always out of Carnival production. Yeah, always out of carnival production to a massive audience.
And the audience response.
Yeah, Queen's Hall again, yeah, massive, yeah. At the time, the people was more calypso conscious. We are more conscious, how to put it, Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to compose a song on anything, the first thing you have to get in the mood. Now, if you're going to sing on carnival, like you know, you have to get in a carnival mood. So you know, you have to the mindset then, musically and everything. If you're going to do social commentary, you know, that's a serious thing. So you set your frame of mind towards what you're going to say. And your mood comes, and then it brings out the melody. Because according to the mood, it's how you just talk and act. According to the mood, it's how you just express yourself.
I like how you put it that you have to be in a particular mood.
Yes.
A particular kind of song.
Of course. And from there on now, you will know exactly what to say, because the mood will almost put words in the mouth and lead you what to say, because you don't have the topic already, what you're singing on. So the first thing you have to get, you have to be in the mood.
And you never really, it doesn't strike me that you overthink your melodies. I think it strikes me that the words come out in a melodic form.
Yes, well, as time go by, you know, but you know, it takes time before you could really be that accurate in what you, on your thoughts then, before you could, you know, before you could be so accurate with words and music fitting at the same time, you know. But after that, it comes natural, eh?
All right, but tell me
Believe you me.
something. You usually get the melody first or the words first?
I usually get the melody first. Melody lead you to what you're saying. Man just compose song, give people song to write, and then look for melody for it. That's why you have to teach them. That way melodies resemble each other.
Well, as a rap song, and it's words, and then I started saying, no, I want more melody. I like melody, and I had to train myself.
Yes, because you more rap song more than singing.
Yeah. Right in the rhythm.
Right. So it will be much easier for you, you know, more than me then, because I want my melody to be heard very clearly, my lyrics to be very clearly, and I don't want my melody to resemble something that I sing already. So I always challenge myself to that, you know, and so far, I think I'll get away with it. Yeah.
And how long, like when you start having an idea for a song, is it that sometimes a song would write itself quick time, like in a few days, or sometimes it's taken a few months?
Yes.
Talk us through some songs that you wrote actually very quickly, they just came out of you.
All right then. Step Zimbabwe is a song that was automatic because of the struggles and of what, the song represented itself then. In that, and I wrote that song in America. Now, pamphlets all over the place, free Mandela. And in them time was a serious campaign, and I think that time they had Mandela in jail. And then this Ian Smith, fellow down in Rhodesia, he was getting on too. And the American people, they have little booklets and pamphlets given away all over the place. Free Mandela, this man in South Africa, Ian Smith, and sometimes I used to pay attention to them, I used to read them. And when you're in America, you don't have no place to go and lie and thing, It's more an apartment, so you have enough time to spend with yourself. And I used to be there and, just reading these pamphlets, little booklets, Jet magazine, they used to print the issue. Everybody was with the cause, eh? I don't know how it was on this side, but you see in America, you see the Mandela, especially Mandela cause. Yes, boy. So I tell myself, I say, look, I feel I can make a contribution to this thing, And just so I started to, pay serious interest to the pamphlets and to the information you're getting. And I composed Step Zimbabwe off of that information. But if you realize it's two boys are killed with one stone, who be onto Rhodesia, who be onto South Africa. You understand? Two issues in one. But Zimbabwe.
I was wondering how come, because South Africa would have been way more prominent in the news at that time. But you mentioned Ian Smith. So how come you chose to focus on Zimbabwe?
Because you see, Zimbabwe was really the more burning issue.
Right.
Zimbabwe was the burning issue, you know what I mean? So I mean, like, although South Africa issue was Mandela, but Zimbabwe issue, it was because it was battling.
War.
It was war, you know. So
You had Nkomo.
yes, yeah. So I decided, well, I will join both. And I have a...
For long, some serious tribe there,
Yeah.
So it happened, the song is on one level and then it's on a whole other
Yes,
level that is quite,
yeah. And then,
quite
and then you see, before, you see where Southern Rhodesia automatically became Zimbabwe?
yeah.
And that song was sung long before, So I mean, like,
Yes, because in those days, the idea of it being called Zimbabwe.
yeah, but the history is always, we always know the history.
Greater Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Right. So you actually
You know?
take the jump on Rhodesia.
Right, yeah.
That's the same trip where you ride the apple.
The Big Apple.
The big apple.
Yeah. The Big Apple.
Song too.
Yeah, and the Africans people, now they give me a piece of money for it and I sign a little contract, but they're smart, because they said they was going to distribute X amount of record. But I know they distribute more. And then they take out a piece of the record now to make some jingles.
Oh, like well exploited.
Yes. Some nice little pieces that Western put in. Well nice little rhythm. And they make jingles and all how we try to connect them and to get a feedback. So right now, sometimes, I just want to know what we are caught for, I try to put that issue to David Brew so many times. We give him some little traces that he could trace then, he could track.
Yeah, serious discussion.
Yeah.
Because in many ways they're not really doing the work
No.
that is set up to do.
But if, you see the mistake I really make, I will tell all of you, see the mistake I make was to leave PRS and join COT.
Yeah.
That is the mistake I made. Now PRS is here about your business internationally. But COT is more, so
So you did it because you wanted to be
yeah.
on the ground.
Yes.
national.
One more stone on Stay Up Zimbabwe, the music, the arrangement.
Yes.
For you, talk about that because it's
Yes.
really one of the best of the best.
Yeah, yes. Now,
Understand?
no, that's Earl Rodney.
Earl Rodney.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
genius.
Yeah.
Earl
So
Rodney.
talk about your relationship with Earl, how he came to do that.
Yeah, well, I and Earl was friends from a long time since he used to play bass in the calypso thing that I used to sing in. As a matter of fact, at time after the koto, he had to say he halfway write a tune for me, and I carried it for Earl. And Earl is the man who finished the tune. And from that time, I and Earl get, and he was the bass man in the Kaiso thing that I used to sing. So we was, we was friends. Not just a musician that used to accompany me. And I get to know him through Stalin, because they're from the south side. But almost every day, Earl used to come to town because Earl was the arranger for solo harmonites.
Nice. That's why I know.
And Earl went, it's 4 pan around, he went with them,
Yeah, so harmonize was a force.
Yes, so, that movements, and then from the Panyard to the Kaiso tent.
You worked with Clive Bradley?
Yeah, man. Clive Bradley, let me tell all the men who play music on that thing. Bradley play keyboard. Earl play bass. A fella named, I don't know if all you know Stonewall Jackson. A fella used to call Jackson. Jackson used to play guitar with Ed Watson. That was Ed Watson guitar man. He was on it. Toby. Bethel, Fortuna Reese. Yeah. That's the crew. And we recorded on 8-track. And Max bunks them 8 tracks and we get 16.
Anna Street.
Yes.
I want a verse and chorus and one song, please.
Where's that song, right?
Blood Brothers. Oh, what a man.
You sing when you sing it, right?
Tell me which man for 470 years that was deep down inside slavery could live to today and still fighting hard to restore his people's dignity. But tell me which man is still believing the earth would be inherited by the meek. And whenever the enemy strike you, always turn the other cheek. No other man, no other man, no other man who do that but African.
Wow. Y'all sang that as a duet?
Yes.
That's what my mind was tripping on just now.
No. I sang that for Stalin on his birthday. Sometimes I did it. I even had the music here for it. And I was planning to record it at some time, I said, well, if ever I have to go in the studio again, I have to give the brother that respect.
If I had a chance to say something now, well, I'm not trying to be politics or anything, what would you like to say?
Well, what I really and truly would like to say, my brother, is to see this place not in a better state, like building wise or.
Yeah, physically, it's not better.
But you see people dealing with people and relation with people. Because we have so much murders now and so much negative things happening.
I don't feel like that state of kept happy, lucky, carefree people that you described so beautifully.
Yes, all of a sudden they turn so violent. The carefree, happy-go-lucky something was attitude is truth.
But now, when you look at this
when I look at this story,
very violent.
Yes,
Violence to it.
Yeah, what is the sense you have good infrastructure? Look at our infrastructure. When you're driving down Rice Road, you're feeling some metropolitan place.
Very developed.
They were, come on, man. And then the behavior of the people, But you see, too, we remember that like I tell the sister, we remember a lost generation, And they are the ones that are the problems because they're not even themselves then.
So when you say lost, what has occurred?
No,
Lost.
a young boy today, he would want to go in the studio and make a record, right? But his language and his tongue could be like not his own.
I deal with them every day, Wally.
All right then.
Yeah. Come home.
So that alone speaks for itself. It's been a long road. A lot of fight. Sometimes we meet it rough, sometimes we meet it smooth. But at the end of the day, if I had to do it again, I'll do it all over. Yeah, because it was purposeful, purpose.
You think that you gain much more than no regrets in that sense?
Not at all. At the end of the day. And let me tell you all something. When you love your thing and you dedicate it to your thing will take care of you. They give me kudos, I'm a medal, they honor me, and at the end of the day, the fight was worth the while. Let me put it that way, And they take care of me, They even give me what do you call it? Achievers. But for my pension, They give me achievers
So they
something
recognize.
fully. You know what I mean?
That's good.
So the battle was well fought, and at the end of the day, it was well won.
So for that, I'm going to sing you my favorite song. Life is a stage, and we are the actors, and everybody have a part to play. Like a never-ending movie with all different characters, each one have a role to portray. Hey, down to the scavengers and them baristas, all them doctors and lawyers and these ministers. So this honorable this and this honorable that and this lady so and so is a part all these people playing. I want you to know. So don't blame the politician anytime you find you get bad administration. Oh no, that was meant to be. The fella is playing his role superbly. Now don't blame the judges for their injustice. Why blame the criminals? I said is a part. I hear you all, you sing with me. Ba-ba-dum, ba-ba-dum. This place has some scenes that I go off on. The acting is greater than on Broadway. Not even on the movie screens. You see people perform like Trinidadians are talking about, man, how they could play. Hey, Trinidad, as we all know, chief role is Kaiso. Then featuring playing pan, football and the limbo. But for playing the part of smart man and smart woman, I could bet my hand. And for creating a big impression is a Trinidadian. Now the ambitious guy with the jacket and tie, who walks the road and hold up his head high. You would shock to know where that same ambitious fella head does go. But it's a part he come out to play, and we really can't treat the fella with scorn. And as they say,
a living legend, Brother Valentino.